Genie grind and watch him get rich, huh? Remember when I said I hit a lick, huh? I don't really wanna fuck the bitch, what? Willie went and made another hit, okay, like Prada on my motherfucking kid, huh? Louis on my motherfucking hip, huh? Curry how I dunk, no switch, hey, fucker gonna fuck that bitch, hey, if you ain't gon' fuck with me, you a dumb fuck, put up a hit but feel like one punch, look at my bank and I'm getting dumb rich, and I'm gonna count it up till 100,
Hello world, I am What If Study, and today we are doing What If Deku had made the underground Quirk fights. Part, 5 I think by this point. Thank you so much for being with us until now. We enter into the fight where Deku, swan diving into the fray. He hears ho, 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 as the fight had already begun. He falls down, dips into the devil's den, as he arcs his leg straight into the secure guard of Panzer. Panzer sent flying into the forest. As dust draws up behind him, Panzer uses this adrenaline that he has gained to instantly arc 2 punches straight into Deku's chin. However, Deku sufficiently dodged every one, just enough that it barely flicked his ear. He says, "Yes, you do have power," as then he arcs his knee straight into freaking Panzer's stomach, knocking some of the wind out of him. "But you lack skill," as then he just picks up his hair and then throws him with it over into a tree, knocking the tree over and completely destroying it, slicing it in half with the body of Jaeger. "Now you will learn, child. Finally, I am the stronger. So many times I've had to fight the strongest. I guess it's time that I taught someone on my own," as he cracks his neck and cracks his knuckles. Time to get the job done. As he walks forward, straight into the forest. However, is stopped by his friends. Olive sprouts up trees all around him, surrounding him completely in the trees. He's lost. However, nothing he can't punch his way out of, as he just starts wildly punching everything in his vicinity. As she keeps on sprouting them, she starts to notice how her skin is turning into a brownish tint. As she says, "Guys, you've only got so much time." As then, she says, "Vayne, you have to do it now." As Vayne looks up and injects himself with the serum, charging straight at Deku, as Deku bashes down all the trees, sending him up in a colander of a tornado, one of his most powerful attacks. That literally he just uppercuts so goddamn hard he causes a tornado. Something that he learned from his fight with Alpha One. As then he's immediately punched in the face by the super human, as he's sent skyrocketing into one of the trees. However, the second punch is expected by him, as he grins, staring daggers down onto this human. He says, "Yes, you do have super strength. However, you are but a quirked child." As then he dodges the fist as it destroys the tree behind him, sending it skyrocketing into the stands. As then Deku uppercuts him into the stomach, and then uppercuts him in the face, and then he grabs onto his hair and knees him in the stomach, sending him up into the air. Picking up one of the trees, he throws it straight at him. As he tries to block it, however, it just goes straight to his stomach, as it is chopped in a V direction onto his stomach. He doesn't feel it, however, it hurts quite a lot. Before he even hits the ground, Jaeger gets up from his daziness and wipes off the concussion as he charges back in and elbows himself right into the stomach of Deku. As then Devil looks down to see this pitiful child. You realize, no matter how much your quirk helps your defense, no matter how much defense you have, you will never be able to even mark my cheek with that little pitiful strategy. No matter how many distractions, no matter how much you try, you will never mark me. As then Deku picks up Jaeger and knees him in the face, and looks straight into his eyes as he brings his head down to his level. He's like, "Is this all part of your plan? Teaming up on me? Pitiful!" As then he drags his hair and throws him up into the air, as he clashes straight with Vayne, as a huge explosion of air happens from their bodies, sending them also into the stands, which destroys some of it, ricocheting through the rest of the arena. They have to both, the final guy, King of the Jungle, and the minions have to, help with the reconstruction of all that stuff. And evacuating the people is their first authority. As Deku turns his sights on Olive. Olive squeals as she rapidly teleports herself underground. As Deku's like, oh, good trick. As then he jumps up into the air and then dives down into the ground, manually just swimming through the ground. So you know how like butterfly guys, they like strongly, just like dive really fast. Yeah, he does that, but underwater. So he starts surfing in the water, in the ground, and just like swims straight at her, grabbing onto her feet and throwing her above the ground with sheer force, as the ground explosion causes mayhem inside of the stands. The girl flies up into the air, however, is caught by Jaeger. Wait a minute. I didn't see him catch her. What the fuck? As then he looks around trying to see where Jaeger and Vayne is. Vayne's over on the ground, out of his power. Completely out of his power. What the hell? What could have... As Jaeger's hand had arced across his face already. By the time the punch was finished, his face had already shot to the other side, almost snapping his neck. However, he brings himself back from being knocked out by one punch until he's punched in the stomach. However, he says, "Clearly, boy, you forgot. I always talk!" As then he grabs onto his hand and twists it, using a submission that can be a standing submission, throwing his arm around him and arcing it around. However, the sheer strength of Jaeger throws Deku across the stadium into the stadium crowds. As he says, "Get out of my way! God damn it!" As then he looks over to see Jaeger, buffed up, larger than life. I mean, this guy is so buffed up. He looks like Arnold Jaeger. Arnold. You know the guy I'm talking about, alright? So basically, yeah, Deku's like, shit. You see, I have been operating my lungs at a below average level to this point. Now that you've actually forced me to. I was always curious about that quirk of yours. As then as his lungs start to breathe fire, as in his mouth he could see fire as it starts operating at normal human's level. However, he added the effect of breathing fire as a montage to his father that had left them abandoned. As Deku jumps up into the air, spewing fire up into the air as a simple distraction, making him think that maybe he's going to go after a fire attack. However, instead, he just headbutts him with all of the force. As Deku says, also, a metal skull. Never expected that, did you, idiot? As then Jaeger sent into the ground. However, Jaeger unplants his legs from the ground as he grabs onto Deku's legs, vaulting him up into the air as he swiftly gets out of the ground, as Deku like lands on a tree, as then he uses the tree to bounce off and then arc a punch across Jaeger's face. Jaeger, unable to fight in these sort of terrible conditions, Deku grabs up some of the dust and throws it into his face, and then elbows him straight across the eye, causing bleeding and huge hemorrhages inside of his head. As he arcs elbows across, and he activates his bio armor. However, this is so much damage that Deku is getting off right now. The Hunter, he can't keep up. He just, as then he uses an air burst of all of the power in his body and throws Deku across the stadium, smashing him into the stadium sides, again arcing up across this thing. As then he powers up his largest punch he has ever had, as then he the biggest explosion that they've ever seen, even bigger than the one that the Beast King had shown. It destroyed half the stadium that was right behind him. As the wall crumbles away from his fist, Deku was standing right next to it saying, "Was that the death punch?" As you know, freaking Hunter's like, "Oh fuck." He's like, you better, if you're gonna go after one gigantic punch, you better make sure that it hits. As then Deku just goes in an onslaught of just fucking punches, elbows, fucking knees, just outsmarting him at every single chance, using the fact that he has never learned how to properly fight to his advantage fully. Using rocks, throwing it against his head, bashing him into concrete. As he says, when's the bio armor gonna snap, huh? As then he just bashes him into the ground and bashes him into the ground. As he says, "You tried to 3-team me. See what happens?" I'm used to that by now anyways. As, he's like, "When is it gonna snap, huh?" As then he takes him down and rises his fist one last time. As then he just right into his stomach. As Jaeger's like, "You didn't want to do that. You didn't want to do that." As he's like, "What is it, kid? Didn't your muscles snap?" As then the armor breaks off, floating through the air. As shards float through the air across Deku's face. It's like majestic butterfly wings crushed and then left out to fly in the wind. He's almost caught in the moment as he realizes, death. Is this what death could be like? No, the punch hasn't come yet. The punch hasn't come yet. As he continues to punch and punch and punch, releasing more flakes as it arcs off into the wind, as he's destroying every single part of his body's bio armor. As he's like, "I need that." As then he says, "Don't threaten me with a good time," as Jaeger had told him that he would die if he was to do this. As then finally the last part on Jaeger's face, as he just completely destroying the final piece. This was green, however, and it turned to red. Jaeger goes limp. Deku says, "What? This is death? Or is death..." No, none of that bullshit. Where's my death, motherfucker? As he almost picks up Jaeger as he says, "That was it? That was all I get? After waiting for so long!" And then Deku had been punched across the face. His jaw and his skull was could be visible. His head now, all of its skin had been blasted off from the sheer force of it. His artificial mouth and nose were gone. His right ear and his right scars were nowhere to be found. His right eye also disintegrated. That's death, eh? As he still stands on his feet, he crushes his leg into the ground. Death. Finally. I've waited so long. As he closes his eyes, not sleepy anymore, they finally rest. For real. As all he sees is a light. Although, the dark, it's looking pretty tempting. They always said that once you saw the light, you couldn't look away. But the dark consumed his soul. His very eyes were painted over. He could see nothing. He saw no one to save him. He'd prefer it that way. No one. Nothing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll give you guys actually a bonus scene for those who didn't, stop halfway through. Because before this, we're in the middle of the match, as half of the stage had been blown off. The mysterious woman was staring at the fight, and then tried to walk out as she had seen Deku been hit by that gigantic punch. She thought that he was dead, and looked away as her cloak billows in the wind. However, Goldtooth meets her before she exits the stage, as he says, "I'm sorry, you'll have to wait just a little longer. We're extending your ticket. You should be thanking us." She says, "I would rather be dead than thank villains." As he's like, "Come on, just stay." As then she, knocks him out instantly with a gun barrel. As the cloak reveals from her head, Yo-Yo Momo Yaoyorozu, the promised girl of the upper world. As she tries to rush out of the building until Beastmaster comes up behind her and drags her away from with her cloak. As he throws her back into the stands, as he says, "Sorry, but the master has commanded it, and there's no denying his will." As he says, "Oh, Yaoyorozu, the promised girl. Interesting. I guess we did find his admirer." As she says, "I would never admire thugs or men like you." As he says, "Oh, feisty one, eh?" As he wakes up Goldman, they both wander off after that to their own duties of fixing the arena. Thank you so much for watching. This is The Real End, and I will be seeing you guys in another episode. Goodbye.